ever wondered what the difference is between making one of something amazing and making millions of them? We love to celebrate that spark of genius, right? That brilliant idea. But the truth is, the real war, the thing that separates success from failure, is almost always won on the factory floor.
And that brings us to this quote, which really frames our whole conversation today. Manufacturing is underrated and design is overrated. Now, that might sound a little harsh, but it cuts right through a huge myth about how our world actually gets built. We are obsessed with beautiful design, but we're often completely blind to the industrial miracle that's required to put that design into our hands.
And I get it. You're probably thinking, hold on, isn't coming up with the brilliant idea the hard part? We have this romantic image of an inventor sketching something on a napkin, and bam, a world-changing product is born. The truth? Oh man, that's not even the beginning. That's barely the first 1% of the entire journey. So let's start there with that initial spark. This brings us to the allure of the prototype. This is the stage everybody loves, right? It's that first working model that proves, hey, this idea is actually possible. It's exciting, it's tangible, and it feels like you've conquered the mountain, but you're not even at base camp yet.
Okay, so just look at this. It's like two totally different universes. Prototyping, that's an art. You're making one. You can use a bit of glue here, hand solder a wire there, you can kind of fudge it. The tolerances, those tiny acceptable variations in a part size, they're forgiving. But production, that is a ruthless, unforgiving science. You're making millions. Everything has to be automated, repeatable, and absolutely perfect. An error of a single millimeter, something you would never even notice in a prototype, can literally shut down a multi-million-dollar assembly line. Just stop it dead.
So how do we even wrap our heads around this colossal leap in difficulty? Well, there's a really useful idea for this I want to share, the 10,000% production rule. It helps us understand the brutal math of making things at scale. Just take a second and look at that number. 10,000%. Now, of course, it's not a real scientific metric. It's meant to feel a little bit absurd because the jump from making one of something to making a million, it's just mind-bogglingly huge. So what does this rule actually tell us? It means that when you're holding that perfect, working prototype in your hands, you're not 90% done. Heck, you're not even 10% done. You are at the starting line. All of the really hard, really complex, and really expensive work is still ahead of you. Because the real genius isn't the thing itself, it's the process that can stamp it out by the millions, perfectly, every single time. And this isn't just some abstract idea. Let's look at a real-world, super famous example of a company going through this exact struggle. Our case study, the period that was famously called production hell, and it stars the Tesla Model 3. So check out this timeline. July 2017, the first cars are delivered. Huge party, lots of excitement. The prototype was proven, the design was a hit. But by the end of that year, they had massively missed their production goals. The alarms started going off. Then, by early 2018, things went from bad to worse. The struggle intensified into full-blown production hell. It got so desperate that by the middle of the year, and this is just wild, they were literally building a new assembly line in a giant tent outside the main factory, just trying to force their way through the problem before the whole company ran out of time and money. And this quote, which came from inside that struggle, it just says everything. It basically confirms our 10,000% rule. See? The problem was never, can we design a cool car? They'd already done that. The real challenge, the monster they had to fight, was designing the factory, designing the machine that builds the machine. So why? Why is scaling just so incredibly hard? Let's pop the hood and really break down the core components of this challenge. Let's look at the machine behind the machine. There are at least 4 huge roadblocks here. First, you have to design for manufacturing. You can't just build the prototype again and again. You have to totally re-engineer it so a robot can snap it together in seconds, not a person in hours. Second, supply chain. You have to somehow coordinate hundreds of suppliers all over the world to deliver millions of perfect parts right on time. If that one supplier for that one tiny screw is late, your whole line stops. Third, tooling and automation. You have to literally build custom robots and machines that will build your product. You're building an entire factory before you can even start. And finally, quality control. How on earth do you make sure the millionth product off the line is just as flawless as the very first one? It takes an absolutely incredible system of checks and balances. And if you're still not convinced, just follow the money. For a typical product, look at where the cash actually goes. That brilliant idea, the design, the R&D, that's just a sliver of the pie.
The overwhelming majority, we're talking like 80%, is spent on the physical raw materials and the gigantic, complex job of actually putting it all together. So why does any of this matter to you? Because once you get this, it totally changes how you see, well, everything. It completely shifts your perspective on what innovation really is. Here's what I really want you to walk away with. First, the next time you pick up your phone or your headphones, you'll have this new appreciation for the insane hidden complexity behind it. Second, you'll finally understand why so many cool hardware startups are so ridiculously hard and why many just disappear. It's a manufacturing game. Third, you'll recognize that being great at manufacturing is one of the biggest, most powerful advantages a company can possibly have. And finally, you'll start to evaluate new products with a new question. Not just, is this cool, but the much tougher question, can they actually make this thing at scale? So I'll just leave you with this. The next time you unbox something new and you're holding that sleek new gadget in your hands, made of all this perfectly joined metal and glass, just take a second and ask yourself, what are you appreciating more? The elegant design that you can see? Or the invisible, impossibly complex factory that made it all possible?